this idea that, and I know Steve Young and others have been talking about it, like the NFL is going to turn into the NBA, that's a bad thing. But, like I think players in the NFL are looking at the NBA going, oh, look at these guys. These guys are doing well. We'd like to do well too. But beyond that, you cannot legislate. You might wish, but you can't legislate where players want to play. They are not obligated to want to play for a team simply because that's where they got drafted. I'm sorry. Well, they signed the contract. Yes, it's true. They had no choice if they wanted to play in the NFL. They're not obligated to want to play there. The job of leadership, ownership, front office, coach, leadership of the offense and the defense is to bring a unit together to want to play for each other. People are not always successful doing that. And more players are feeling empowered to say what they feel. And if Jalen Ramsey doesn't want to be there, and I suspect that before this outburst he didn't want to be there, then he shouldn't. What's wrong with him saying, yeah, I'd like to get traded? I think that's perfectly fine.
Well, it's not. It's not. And I think that you're wrong there. And here's why. And I want to preface my comments by saying I'm a huge fan of Jalen Ramsey. The brother is a stud. Length, strength, athleticism, size. Job he did against DeAndre Hopkins, who in the past got the better of him. That wasn't the case this past Sunday. 5 receptions, 40 yards. Pretty much held one of the best wide receivers in football in absolute check. The frustration is mounting with Jalen Ramsey. We understand that. For the second consecutive year after a berth in the AFC Championship game, he was talking trash when he was with Jacksonville, okay? He wasn't complaining when they were in the AFC Championship game. He was complaining because Blake Bortles was throwing away a trip to the Super Bowl. Then Blake Bortles threw away a season. Then you get rid of him, and Nick Foles goes down in game 1. Once again, you find yourself behind the 8 ball with no quarterback and a lot being asked. And then your coach, Doug Marrone, who, by the way, hasn't done the greatest job in the world. He's had good moments, not so good moments. You got this brother playing zone when this is one of the better lockdown corners in the game of football. You know this is mano a mano. Listen,
who's better than him locked down?
I'm saying I don't know if anybody's better. Right?
Is he He might be number one.
He might be number one. But what I'm saying is, so I understand his frustration because again, you want to showcase your talents. You going up against the best. You ain't gonna go to a Verlander and ask him to intentionally walk somebody. Hell no. Let's get it on. And when a coach strips you of that possibility, I understand it. But Max, I'm going to go to the Odell Beckham Jr. Situation. Nothing wrong. Didn't break no laws. Didn't break no team rules. He didn't do anything. But culturally speaking, there's a manner in which you have to conduct yourself as a professional. When you don't do that, and you do it visually and flagrantly, it sets the stage for others to try to get away with it if you do. And so as a professional, when you sign a contract, you've got an obligation to conduct yourself in a certain fashion and handle things professionally. You want to get traded, that's fine. Your agent did the right thing by sitting there saying, I asked for a trade. You didn't demand it in front of the microphones or anything like that. But it doesn't help that this came out in the immediate aftermath of you being on a sideline going at your coach who is supposed to be an authoritative figure. And we can't rave about the Bill Belichicks of the world when we know that never happens with him. We saw Tom Brady go at Bill O'Brien when Bill O'Brien was offensive coordinator. It was Bill Belichick that said, knock it off. And both of them stood down.
So why is that not on the coach?
No. What I'm saying is...
Jalen Ramsey's competitive. He wants to win.
I'm not claiming that. I'm saying you can't be a player and come at your head coach like that in public. It's not good.
Steve, I disagree, Stephen A. And the reason being is because my livelihood is directly impacted by how I perform, right? We always talk about coach's number one job is to put players in a position to be successful. And when you don't do that, it's personal. Right now, I'm not with Jalen Ramsey putting his hand on Doug Marrone. I ain't ever with that. And seeing that clip.
Well, I'm talking about it all. That's what I'm talking about the clip.
Makes me.
I'm only talking about the clip. I didn't see anything else.
That gives me pause. But when you start thinking about where first of all, Jacksonville ain't been good for a while. Now, since last season, they were terrible.
2 years, yeah.
They were horrible, and this year looks like it's going to be even worse. Thinking about this whole situation, about the trade, right? You had a blow up on the sideline. Like, I'm with you, Max. This was a culmination of a lot of things.
Of course.
And whether it was directed at Doug Marrone, whether it was about how we play in defense, whether it was about the environment and the culture that we in. The one thing people cannot say about Jalen Ramsey in Jacksonville is that he is not the best defensive player every time we step on the field. That is not up
They got
for
some good
debate.
defensive
They
players.
have Kalis Campbell, Miles Jack is there. They just drafted Josh Allen. Bouye came from Houston. They paid a bunch of money to him to come play. Look, this is a defense that's supposed to be really, really good. Now, when you are Jalen Ramsey and you are elite within the group of guys that we just talked about, Coach, you better damn well put me in a position to be successful. That is his issue.
Along those lines, Stephen A., I'm not even talking about, because we had Brandon Marshall on talking about the number of catches that, or, the number of targets that Antonio Brown's going to want regardless of where he is. I'm not talking about Jalen Ramsey's used in a way he doesn't love. If you're winning. Even if the defense is performing really well, because then Jalen Ramsey doesn't have a leg to stand on. Oh, I'm sorry. You think your bottom line's being affected down the road, but the defense is working. They're using you in a way that's helping the team.
Right.
But if you're losing, if the defense isn't playing up to snuff, then you look at the coach going, you're affecting my money?
No, you're missing it. First of all, he ain't affecting Jalen Ramsey's money because everybody knows how big time Jalen Ramsey is. That's number one. But number two, I'm going to come back to you. I am not questioning in any way how Jalen Ramsey feels. Nor am I questioning his right to ask to be traded. Because you know Tom Coughlin's upstairs and he's a problem. Because you know how Tom Coughlin is when it comes to dealing with players.
No doubt.
He's very rigid in his approach to things. We get all of that. But there is a way that you have to handle stuff publicly. I'm not saying my only issue with Jalen Ramsey is you can't be seen on the sideline doing that, because when that happens, now the question or the issue becomes about your behavior, your willingness to keep yourself under control, your receptiveness to authority, all that stuff that shouldn't really matter.
Where do you want to see him go? Where do you want to see him go?
Still.
Real quick. Where do you want to see him go?
I like to see him in New York, but
Kansas City, brother.
But to that point, with the
Kansas
Jets,
City.
to that point you just said.
Last word here, Marcus.
Just watch AB go to the Patriots after all that.
I know.
Like so his talent, Jalen Ramsey's talent, allows him to have the ability
But both
to do
of us
that.
lament it.
Thank you so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.